We're going to talk about the NHS and the way the bosses have stubbornly, effectively refused to accept the Supreme Court's biological sex ruling. So they are still railing against the idea of safe private spaces for women. They're still railing against the idea of letting men into women's changing rooms and so on and so forth. This surely is all wrong. Now, my next guest is one of the leaders of the Darlington Nurses. You know, famously, to their credit, they took the NHS to court because the NHS was insisting on imposing in their private female space, their changing rooms, a bloke called Rose, who was a bloke. And the nurses said, we're not having that. They took it to court. And then there was the Supreme Court's ruling on biological sex. So the nurses, the brilliant Darlington nurses, felt at the time of that ruling that their battle was won, their war was won. What they're finding out now is that that ruling was just the start of their war, and they're still fighting it. So a very, very warm welcome to a very brave woman, as are her colleagues there up in Darlington, to Nurse Bethany Hutchinson. Welcome, Bethany.
Thank you.
Now, as I just laid out there, you guys, I shouldn't say that, should I? Bad choice of phrase there. You nurses, you female nurses, when the Supreme Court came down with its ruling on biological sex, took them 5 years to come to the decision that the definition of a woman was someone who was born a woman. Why it took the greatest legal minds in the country 5 years to come to that conclusion, I don't know. But it was the right decision. Now you felt, Bethany, and your friends, you felt, well, that's it, we've won now. But no, you're finding that the bosses in every day, every way, are railing against the biological sex ruling. You thought your war was won. It had only just started. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to say that there's been a huge victory, and I think in the media it kind of was portrayed as a victory, but nothing much has changed. We did have a visit from somebody senior in NHS England who said, you know, this trust has to get this sorted. We have to find alternative facilities for transgender people. And since then, there's been no communication from any of the executive team or senior members of the hospital. Again, we've been completely ignored, which seems to be a running theme throughout this case. So we're no further forward with anything. We are continuing to use a temporary changing room, which has now been in place for a year. So seems more like a permanent changing room rather than temporary one.
And is Rose still around? Where does Rose go?
As far as I'm aware, Rose is still able to access the female changing room.
Which should be your changing room.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It should be our changing room. The trust have taken down their transitioning in the workplace policy from the internet. It's been intranet. It's been removed. However, there hasn't been an alternative policy plus put in place. So we are under the impression that the previous policy still is, that's still what we have to follow.
So let's just recap on that. The females, you and your colleagues, you're in some sort of temporary place that they put you in at the height of the row over Rose. Rose is a bloke who wanted to invade your private, safe female space, your changing rooms. You wouldn't have it. You took the NHS to court on it. Then you get the Supreme Court ruling, which surely should have come down in your favour. At that point, your hospital, your NHS trust, should surely have said to you, OK, ladies, you go back into the female safe space and Rose won't be in there anymore. Instead, Rose is still in the female safe space. Rose, I should stress, is a bloke who wants to pretend that he's a female. You, Bethany, I can see you're a real female, and I know your friends. I know your friends are too. You're in the temporary one.
Yes.
Now, is it just me, or is that a rather warped and twisted situation?
Oh, absolutely. It's completely bonkers. I think there's an easy solution to all of this, but for some reason, the trust and NHS trusts across the nation are doubling down on providing access for men in female facilities. I can't really get my head around it when there's been a Supreme Court ruling.
No, exactly. So have you managed to actually sort of confront any bosses about this, to actually talk to them about it?
No, no, nobody will bother speaking to us at all.
And in your legal action against the NHS Trust, is that still going forward? I mean, will that still be heard?
Yeah, I'd like to clarify that, because I think in the media, some people got a little bit confused and thought, well, this is it, that it's over for them. But actually, it's still ongoing. So we are still heading to court in October.
You see, you shouldn't have to do that, though, should you? At the point where you must have felt this, you must have felt when the Supreme Court made their ruling, oh, well, that's it, we've won. We won't need to proceed with this legal action. I don't know who's paying for it, but legal actions are expensive. But you've subsequently found out that actually the Supreme Court biological sex ruling hasn't made any difference at all, and you've had to continue with your legal action.
Yeah, it's crazy. We can't understand it ourselves, but it is very important, and we continue to advocate for single-sex facilities within the NHS and wider society, and we will not be deterred. We will continue to do this until policies are changed across the board.
Now, do you have any court date for when your case will be heard?
I should know it off by heart, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
But it's sort of mid-October time.
Okay. We don't need the precise date, but in October, I mean, if you do go to court, if your bosses are stupid enough to let this go to court, I mean, this is an open and shut case, isn't it? You just walk in and say, I give you the Supreme Court's biological sex ruling. We win, they lose. I mean, I would have thought that the bosses, unless they're incredibly stupid, will do anything not to go to court, because they can't win this case, can they?
Well, you would have thought not, but it appears as though that they are cracking on with things and they are keen to go to court themselves. There's nothing being said for them to be deterred either. So as far as we're aware, we're still heading to court.
Generally at the NHS, I mean, you know, we report on it all the time. Strangely, in my view, the NHS has become consumed, saturated, if you like, by wokery. You know, by trans issues.
Yeah.
So, they produce a 60-page pamphlet on motherhood without ever using the word mother or woman or female, and so on and so forth. They refer to women as people who menstruate, people who get pregnant. They refer to women as pregnant people as opposed to expectant mothers, and so on and so. That sort of thing. You know, the thing that actually has driven not only people like you, Bethany, but lots of members of the public to distraction. Really annoying, really unnecessary, really confusing, anti-medical, to be honest with you. But are you saying that kind of attitude on the part of the NHS not only is continuing, is prospering?
I mean, I think so. I think we're seeing less and less of it, but it is definitely still there. And it's really disrespectful and degrading towards women. I can't stand it. Personally, I can't stand it, and it needs to be removed. This sort of insidious ideology that's crept into the NHS, it doesn't benefit anybody, and it's very detrimental to women. Yeah,
that's what I hate about it. It's sexist. It's sexist. Yeah. It's the elimination of women. You know, let's not use the word women. Let's not use the word female. Let's not use the word mother. That is just sexist against women. What is wrong with the word female or woman or mother? Can you explain that to me? Why do they hate that so much?
I would love to be able to explain it to you, but I have absolutely no idea. None whatsoever.
I think they think that they're being sort of very forward-thinking and kind and sort of generous to minorities, as in the trans community. But in so doing, and by the way, you know, I'm all for trans rights, you know, live your life exactly how you want to as far as I'm concerned. But in their kind of mania about trans rights, they've forgotten about women's rights, it seems to me.
Yeah, and I think what you were saying about being kind as well, women are sort of inherently sort of kind and they want to be nice, particularly within a nursing profession. You know, that's usually why nurses are mainly female. We want to be perceived as kind. So I think a lot of women have just kind of sat back and thought, well, you know, I feel really uncomfortable about having to change in front of a male, but I've got to be kind and I have to allow this to happen. I can't speak up. It's unkind to speak up. But I want to encourage women to speak up, because what is unkind is being forced to get essentially naked, undressed in front of a male. That is not kind. It's not dignified. It's not respectful. And things need to change.
As a sort of medical professional, Bethany, do you worry also about the increasing syndrome that, you know, activist doctors, those kind of junior doctors in particular, consultants as well, who like to go on strike a lot. The junior doctors recently passed a motion at the BMA, the British Medical Association, their union, to say that, there's no such thing as biological sex, and that it's a concept, and that to say that the biological sex is a medical fact is inaccurate. Well, that's just not true, is it? Do you worry that these doctors, an increasing number of people at the NHS, if you like, are prioritising their activism over medical science, over the facts of medical science? I think that is the most worrying aspect of this of all.
Yeah, I mean, it is a worry. And I would say that they probably need to sort of sit their GCSE biology again and review that, because it is factual, biological sex. And yeah, I mean, for the doctors that I've spoken to, the vast majority are in agreement with me and agree that sex is a biological fact.
Yeah, what I think about the NHS, it's like a lot of organisations, you know, people have got this impression, oh, it's full of lunatics. But actually, it isn't full of lunatics. There's just a very noisy minority, a kind of activist minority, that have given the NHS this image. And unless you can do something to get rid of these people who are just talking nonsense and being activists for the sake of it, you worry for the future of the NHS. That's why you and your friends in Darlington are doing a really, really important job. How has it affected your careers?
I mean, life is difficult going into work, just generally, because you don't know what you're going to be confronted with. Obviously, we deal with members of the public and people have different opinions. But I think we all feel like there is a black mark that has been placed over our names, and that we potentially won't be able to progress anywhere within the NHS, unfortunately.
Well, that's wrong as well. Well, listen, I hope we talk. Well, we will talk before October. But in the meantime, the best of luck to you and the brilliant Darlington nurses. And we'll keep in touch and we'll talk again. Bethany, excellent to speak to you.